to the vlog. This is going to be a writing vlog. I am basically going to take you guys through a week in the life out here in Bali as a freelance writer and romance author. So yeah, if you're new here, hi, I'm Laura. I'm a romance author and a freelance writer. And yeah, let me just share with you guys my most recent updates. So mainly I am a copywriter and I haven't actually had any copywriting work for the last 2 weeks, I think. But to be honest, the last 2 weeks have been absolutely chaotic and extremely stressful. So I am glad for the break. I also was working on a ghostwriting project and I was really enjoying it. I actually wrote half of the book and it had all the tropes that I usually read in a book. During the process, I didn't really feel aligned with it, but I kept going. And yeah, when I first started, I signed an NDA and they gave me a plot, which I was happy to work with. But within the first week, and this is after I had already written, I think, 8k words, they wanted a chapter by chapter outline. Now, I am a flow writer to my core, and when I start writing, I just love to get into a flow state and just kind of let my characters run wild and do whatever they want. And I understand that ghostwriting is completely different to writing your own book. But yeah, when I did the chapter by chapter outline, they basically came back and said that they didn't like a lot of the things that I'd put in there, regardless of how aligned they were with the plot. And yeah, they ended up doing the chapter by chapter outline for me. And at this point, I think I was on 8k words. And they had changed the chapters around, they had changed the POVs. So this book was a why choose and it had 4 MMCs and 1 FMC. Now usually in this case with a why choose, with that many MMCs and an FMC, the FMC is the center point of the story and you always come back to the FMC. And when I was writing this book, I did struggle with it because as a why choose romance reader and obviously a why choose author, I really just didn't align with how they set up the book itself. And yeah, I can't give too much away, but what I will say is that it was very male dominant. So the MMCs were getting the spotlight and the FMC was in the background. It was more like 4 to 5 chapters on the different male POVs, and then the FMC would come into it. Now, for me personally, and I don't know what you guys feel about this, but for me personally, in a why choose, I like it when every other, or at least every 2 to 3 chapters, it comes back to the FMC, because she is the anchor in the book. She is the central person. And I just think it should always come back to her. And it would be exactly the same if it was like an FFM and the MMC was the central lead. But yeah, with this book, I wasn't really aligned with what I was writing, and I think it showed in my writing. But anyway, I got halfway through the book. The milestones had been set because I did do it on Upwork, thankfully, and honestly, this is why I love using Upwork, because then there's never a situation where you're like, am I going to get paid? How much are they going to pay me? Like, the amount they're going to pay you is set there, and it's based on your rates that you set as well. So yeah, there was that. So basically, I sent them what I had. They only wanted a 10k sample, so I sent them the first 10k. At this point, I had changed all of the elements they had noted in the chapter by chapter outline. I'd restructured it to make it more male dominant, and yeah, they still didn't like it, unfortunately, which is disappointing and disheartening, I guess. But I am kind of glad, and I do feel a little bit of relief, because I just really think when it comes to writing a book, regardless if you're ghostwriting it or writing it as yourself, you really, really need to be enjoying what you're writing. And if you're not aligned with the agency or author, if you're ghostwriting it, or you're not enjoying what you're writing as an author, then it's absolutely not worth your time or the money at all. Now, I am a dark romance girly. Why choose MM? Like, that is literally all I read. So for me to read a monogamous MF relationship and for that to be like a small town romance would be very, very off brand for me. And it's not something that I would write, nor would I enjoy writing. So of course I would never choose a project that had that. But yeah, it is disappointing because this project had, like I said, all the elements, all the tropes, everything that I usually love, and I was really enjoying writing it. But yeah, at the end of the day, if it's not working, it's not working. And I'm just really hoping that I will get given another opportunity where my writing is appreciated. And I did say this on my social media recently, but when it comes to working with agencies, this is another reason why I self-published my first book, is that I do find a lot of books are very, very similar. They have similar tropes, the plot is similar. Any form of art is such an incredible gift to have. And yeah, like for example, there's a girl that lives here at our homestay and she paints and her art is incredible and it's not something that I've ever seen before and it's unique to her and no one else can replicate that. And it's the same way with my writing. Everyone has the capability of writing a book or creating a piece of art, but not everyone is going to do it like you. And I think that's why being aligned with an agency or author, if you're ghostwriting or enjoying what you're writing as an author, then you really, really need to be 100% clear on it, because it does affect your writing whether you want it to or not. And yeah, I guess that's just my update for now. I'm not taking it personally because this isn't like a humble brag, but I do think my writing is worthy and I do think it's good. And even with my copywriting, for example, like the client I'm currently working with, he has mentioned me on his website. He is going to link the articles onto LinkedIn, which I'm currently rebuilding. And yeah, it's things like that that go a long way with me. And when it comes to writing a book, I think I would rather have 100 people read it and for it to really align with them and affect them in a way that no other book has, than to be picked up by an agency and have that book be exactly the same as every other fantasy book or every other Why Choose Romance book that's out there. And on that note, I just want to say that being an indie author is not for the faint-hearted, and neither is a freelancer. A friend of mine, she has her own freelance coaching business, which I will link below. It is called Luna Biz, and she is absolutely incredible. She's one of the most supportive, I think I mentioned her on the last video, but she's one of the most supportive people in my life. And yeah, I probably wouldn't be where I am in my freelance journey without her. And she mentioned recently on her TikTok account that freelancing, it looks great and you're living in Bali and you're living next to the beach and you're living the dream digital nomad life, but actually it's so much more than that. It's losing clients randomly and having to set 10% of your earnings aside for tax, which I honestly have absolutely no clue about. And it's organizing your finances and just being organized in general with absolutely everything, and like having a separate bank account. And there's just so many things behind the scenes of freelancing that don't get highlighted online. It's just built up to be this dream magical life, and honestly some parts of it are. Like recently I went to Singapore. I did 3 days there, and despite it being the most stressful time of my life, I actually had such an incredible time. And walking around gardens by the bay, which always makes me feel like I'm in Avatar, I always have the moment where I'm just like, how is this my life? And the moment I stepped off the plane and landed in Bali, because I only had my backpack with me, I jumped on the back of a bike and I was just like, this is just the most incredible thing ever. So that is my freelance writer and author updates that I have. So like I said, I have actually been working on my LinkedIn. My friend Law, who I just mentioned, who owns Lunabiz, she has a guide for Upwork that I recently implemented, and I've noticed major changes with my algorithm in general and the jobs that are coming up on my feed. And yeah, she's about to release another guide which is more in depth about how to get your business out there and what platforms to use. And I've never really thought about using LinkedIn in that way. But as soon as I read this guide, I was like, you know what? I actually need to GYST and get into it. And yeah, hopefully the next time I speak on here, I will have some copywriting work or some more ghostwriting work to come in. But other than that, I'm just making the most of being here, enjoying it, and prioritizing my health. I actually haven't left my home state in a week. I have been getting very lightheaded, dizzy, and I've been fainting since I've been here. And like I mentioned in my last vlog, I do have PCOS, and the tablets I was on were clearly doing something wrong for my body while being out here. So I've stopped taking those, and obviously been drinking a lot more water and eating properly, and I have been feeling better, but I'm still a little bit nervous to go anywhere far and sit in a cafe because I'm just so scared of getting to the point where I will faint again. I'm hoping that it doesn't happen now I've made these changes, but you just never know. Yeah, for the rest of this vlog, I will just share with you guys what I can.